I'm going to describe a French comedy film called Serial Teachers today. There will be spoilers ahead. Keep an eye out and be cautious. This year, 86% of pupils at a French high school graduated successfully, setting a new record. They run about and dance, hoping for a prosperous college life ahead of them. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at Jules Ferry High School is the polar opposite. According to the news outlets, it is the year's lowest-rated high school, with just a 12% pass rate. The academy inspector, deputy inspector, and principal are reviewing the kids' poor performance at a meeting. They've hired the greatest professors in town, and the pupils aren't stupid either, making it tough for them to comprehend why they're failing. If the pass rate does not reach at least 50% this year, the sponsors will cease sponsoring the school, forcing it to collapse. To circumvent this, they devise a novel technique that has never been attempted before. They want to select the country's worst instructors, because the greatest ones did not provide the desired outcomes. They are optimistic that the worst ones will. Then we are exposed to the aforementioned terrible instructors. Miss Gladys, the tough English teacher, comes first. She is excellent at what she does, although a touch too aggressive with the stupid kids. Then there's Cutero, the slacker math instructor. He is so sluggish that the fish drag him into the water when he goes fishing. Eric, the sports instructor, lifts anything heavy and throws anything flat as a frisbee. Albert, the chemistry instructor, comes in fourth. His experiments, like his lessons, endanger his life. Maurice is a philosophy instructor who speaks things in riddles and makes them seem more sophisticated than they are. Amina is the French instructor, and she's the most attractive of the bunch. Students like her class not only because of her great teaching techniques, but also because of the provocative attire. Polishan, the history instructor, comes next. He is timid and disorganized, and he was undoubtedly the one that was harassed in high school. The losers group enters the school united, drawing everyone's attention. Gladys enters the first lesson and immediately begins slapping the youngsters with chalk. She seemed to love tormenting them more than she does educating them. Nectarine, the normal teacher's pet and the only one who studies, is one of the pupils. She skipped a grade last year due to her excellent marks and makes sure to emphasize it at every opportunity. Then we're introduced to Boulard, the class clown who is usually late. He walks inside the classroom and is immediately assaulted by Gladys. The whole class is taken aback by her distinct but largely terrifying demeanor. Cutero's class is up next. He arrives 20 minutes late and spends an additional 10 minutes to put his name on the board, being the sluggish guy that he is. Then he goes outside to smoke and wait for the period to expire. Polishan, the history instructor, enters the incorrect classroom and finds the German teacher at the front. He misidentifies her as a student and invites her to join the others. Polishan does not listen when the instructor attempts to explain. He is informed he is in the incorrect class after nervously fumbling with papers and chatting about Napoleon for a few minutes. He apologizes before hurrying away. Polishan and the German instructor exchange looks at lunch, signifying the beginning of a love engagement. The sports instructor has the children climb trees without any safety precautions during gym class. He dismisses their self-injury as one of many issues they will experience in life. The students' favorite Miss Amina's class follows. For the first time, the males stare at her without blinking. When she takes them out of their minds, they all fall down without missing a beat. Boulard comes late but gets the same response as the others. During philosophy class, the instructor drapes his coat over a student's head and refers to him as a talking coat hanger. He explains how a hanger cannot speak for the duration of the session. Finally, in chemistry class, Albert combines some chemicals, but due to a little measurement error, the whole class is coated with fizz. Polishan meets the French instructor after school and apologizes for his error. He also hugs her, oblivious to conventional manners, having never touched a woman in his life. The 7 losers instruct the pupils for a week, the most tumultuous week in Jules Ferry's history. By the weekend, parents had arrived with concerns about the chemistry instructor burning someone's backpack and the sports teacher sending pupils home every day with a new broken bone. It's the final straw for the principal before summoning the academy deputy inspector. But the guy doesn't care how he handles the matter. He was the one who proposed the worst instructors, but his dismissive of the problem leads the principal to believe he had an ulterior motivation. The next day, the principal takes things into his own hands and attempts to persuade the instructor to change his ways. First, he glues the chalk pieces to the table so Gladys can't strike the children. When she uses the duster, the thread linked to it smacks her in the back of the head. Then, when it's Cutero's turn, he pulls out a picnic chair and sits on it as normal. This time, though, a short circuit sparks a tiny explosion, causing him to leap. When he chooses to terminate the lesson earlier, the principal disguises himself as the wall clock and reminds him of the time. Polishan's issue is that he can't seem to quit talking about Napoleon. As a result, the principal interrupts class with a PowerPoint presentation on the subject he is intended to teach. During the chemistry time, He locks all chemicals save water so that no more explosions occur. To get rid of Amina's exposing attire, the radiator is destroyed, and everyone must dress in layers. Meanwhile, Palashan continues to try to impress the German instructor. He seeks advice from his co-workers, who advise him to appear aggressive whenever she is around. Palashan takes the proposal seriously and dresses up after school like a typical bad lad. He flaunts his non-existent muscles and invites her out on a date. When she declines, he recognizes he is doing something wrong. It's finally the conclusion of the semester. Teachers have been despondent recently as a result of all the constraints imposed on them. As a result, when the deputy inspector arrives for an inspection, they complain about all of their issues. He notices a pattern in which the principal is overly invested in the teacher's method of instruction. As a result, he grants them complete access to their classrooms. They don't hold back now that they can do anything they want. Palashan teaches about Napoleon while cosplaying as him, while Kudero snoozes on a hammock for the duration of the class. Boulard pulls on Nectarine's hair in one of Gladys' classes, causing her to whine. Gladys decides to cut her ponytail as a remedy. The principal cannot intervene because she has the right to do whatever she wants in class. The chemistry teacher makes the most of his freedom. His experiments range from the absurd to the potentially lethal. Almost every class ends in an explosion of some kind. The philosophy professor makes his students walk around naked in order to teach them about nature in its purest form. The school has now piqued the interest of the neighborhood kids. They hear about a hot teacher, tense classes, and classes where they can get naked. People begin to break into the school in a few weeks to attend it. The attendance rate rises to 120%. The school becomes a club, and the teachers become celebrities among the newcomers. Meanwhile, Palashan is still attempting to impress his German teacher. This time, he pretends to be a prince on a horse in an attempt to sweep her off her feet. When the horse bolts, the plan fails. As the end of the semester approaches, the extra students refrain from attending class. To prepare for the finals, the others take a practice test. However, the pass rate has decreased from 12% to 3%, according to the results. The teachers are at a loss for words. The principal is also taken aback that the pass rate could fall any lower. He meets with the deputy inspector and informs him that his plan is failing. The man never wanted it to work, it is revealed later. He wants to get the pass rate as low as possible so that the academy inspector will be fired and he can take over. He was well aware that the new teachers would fail, which is why he appointed them. Palashan overhears the conversation and rushes to inform his colleagues. The group is determined to prove they are not France's worst teachers after learning they are. Palashan comes up with the plan to steal the exam papers. The others join in and begin devising elaborate plans to do so. They even practice avoiding bullets in case they are apprehended. The day of execution finally arrives. The group joins a demonstration outside the ministry. Gladys lies down on the road and goes unnoticed as the police chase the crowd away. The others storm into the ministry, leaving Gladys and Kudero outside. Amina's beauty distracts the guards, allowing the group to enter the building and into the safe room. However, an unexpected problem arises when the safe's lock requires a 6-digit code to be opened. Kudero enters unexpectedly, proving that they didn't have to do all of the work to get in. They all agree that the code must be the day the minister won the election, which turns out to be correct. The students are then asked to take a second mock test in the scene that follows. The group begins the test by implying how important the questions are. However, they discover that they had inadvertently stolen the middle school exam papers. Nonetheless, the students appreciate their efforts. With only 2 weeks until the finals, everyone is losing hope. Palashan delivers his resignation letter to the principal, knowing that nothing he does will help the students at this point. As he leaves the school grounds, the German teacher expresses her disappointment in him for fleeing like a coward. Her remark reminds him that he is not yet ready to give up. He uses Napoleon to motivate the students and teachers, convincing them to study hard for the next 2 weeks. Beginning that day, the philosophy teacher drinks before class to ensure that his students understand what he is saying. Gladys lets them wear helmets so they don't get wounded when she throws chalk at them, and the sports instructor pushes them harder than ever before. The results are released 3 weeks later. To everyone's surprise, students show the greatest increase in pass rate, but it only reaches 49%. This means that the teachers were unsuccessful, and the school will no longer be open. The deputy inspector celebrates his victory by drinking in front of his supervisor and stating that it was always his intention. When everything seems to be going wrong, the principal receives a letter that changes everything. Boulard gets expelled from school due to his poor academic performance. Because to Boulard's incompetence, the pass rate increases to 50%. Everyone congratulates him on his victory and treats him like a prince. The instructors are then free to move to whatever school they wish, according to the agreement. However, they decide to keep half of the pupils who did not pass in Jules Ferris. The deputy inspector is somewhere else, aboard a boat on a crocodile-infested river. His employer, it turns out, had him relocated to a distant community. In the last scene, the German instructor kisses Polish on before they take a group photo for the yearbook.